for those of you.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and thank you for joining us here on this thing called Life on New Beat Radio. We are going to jump right in tonight because we're going to pick up on a topic that is, we schedule these things in advance. And it just so happens that, this particular topic, some things we shuffle around, but for the most part, they fall when they're supposed to. And when we came up with this topic, which is surviving the holidays with those people. It was one of those we weren't real sure, exactly. I mean, we knew it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, somewhere in between. But, with illness and all kinds of other things, it got kind of pushed out. But we're going to talk about it, and it just so happens that this is our after Christmas show. And we are definitely going to talk about those people.
Yes, ma'am.
But what we're talking about today is that we are going into verbal abuse, and anxiety, and the effects of the verbal abuse on various people, men, women, but most especially children. And we're going to breathe deeply. Hey, lady.
Should have drank some kava before
Mike is like, oh Lord, I got stories. Well, you're going to have to call in and share them with us. Hey, Miss Nundy. I missed you, boo. I hope you had a fabulous holiday. Okay, so we're just going to, kind of, like I want to just jump right in, but then again, on the same time, I want to just be like, but y'all know I don't really hem and haw too much. So, one of the things that we are going to we're going to talk about it, is verbal abuse. And I want to just give you the clinical definition of verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is when a person forcefully criticizes, insults, or denounces someone else. It is characterized by underlying anger and hostility. It is a destructive form of communication intended to harm the self-concept of the other person and to produce negative emotions. Hello, Miss Angela Elaine. Shake it off, sissy. Shake it off. Now, I want people to know that when we talk about abuse, and we talk about, especially when we talk about domestic abuse and things of that nature, domestic abuse is not limited to physical abuse. Let me rephrase that. No, I'm not going to rephrase it. I'm going to repeat it. Domestic abuse is not limited to the act of someone physically putting their hands on you. There is mental abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, which is the one we're tackling tonight, as well as actual physical abuse. I will say that a lot of times when people suffer from the non-physical abuses, it's harder to heal from. A lot of times, one, because the scars are internal. And anytime a scar is internal, it takes some extra help, some extra work, and it cuts extra deep. But then again, it's also harder to prove when it's internal. Unless there are people who are just like...
Unless they snap out.
We see it. We see it. We see we see what's going on. We see what happens. And in those cases... But another... I think one of the telltale signs of when verbal abuse is present is the disposition of those affected. So whether it be the person who is receiving the abuse directly or who are bystanders of the abuse, it's there. One of the biggest, I guess, indicators is anxiety in another person, or in the person who is on the receiving end of it. So I'm going to let Sis jump in with kind of, I guess, a synopsis of anxiety and what it entails.
Good evening, everybody. According to Webster's, anxiety is defined as an abnormal and overwhelming sense of apprehension and fear, often marked by physiological, I can say that word,
Yeah, say that word 5 times fast.
physiological signs such as sweating, tension, and an increased pulse. Of course, there are other symptoms and signs, but those are the ones that it gave as an example. By doubt concerning the reality and nature of the threat, and by self doubt about one's capacity to cope with it. When you start dealing with the differences between worry and anxiety, worry is more of a feeling or fear of impending or an already occurring bad situation. Anxiety is a little bit more complex. It deals more with it's more of a it's worrying on steroids. I'll just say it like that. Many people don't understand anxiety and often mistake it for worry. Anxiety, a lot of people don't realize, can oftentimes lead to a nervous breakdown. So when you start talking about anxiety in children, when you start talking about how our young people are responding to bullying, when you start dealing with how when they are trapped in situations that deal with adults and they are affected directly by the things going on with those adults. You know, they're not in a position to respond or say anything or do anything about the situation, but that does not mean that they're not being affected mentally, emotionally, and then sometimes their anxiety manifests itself physically.
It does. It does.
So, you know, we'll delve deeper as we go along, though. But
Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, because we are both we're both survivors of domestic abuse on many levels. We are both survivors of a whole lot of shit. But also because we are also advocates. We are people who, when there is a domestic abuse situation, we are those people who do everything possible to help you to get out. Whether it is above ground, underground, secretive, in your face, however it needs to happen, we are a resource. And we were just, whether we had been together or whether we had been apart, living in separate states, we were still doing the same thing.
Right.
And that is, providing an out.
right.
So when it comes to abuse in any of its many, many forms, one, we can identify it. We there may be some situations where you be like, that's kind of sketchy, or I'm not real sure about that, but for the most part, we can tell you, hey, this is abuse. These are classic signs. These are classic symptoms of abuse. These are classic indicators of abuse. The way you are reacting, the way that you act, the way that you carry yourself. You are a person who has been abused. Let me help you.
And a lot of times people, and I'm jumping ahead, but a lot of times people have dealt with situations for so long until they don't realize that they are in an abusive situation because they lived in dysfunction with their parents or their guardians or whomever, and then they transition into a relationship that they feel will be better because of the representative that has been placed before them, prior to the commitment of the relationship.
Right.
So once the commitment has occurred and they begin to see beneath the surface of who the individual really is, a lot of times, because this is what I know and what I've always known, but it's not as bad as it was when I was at home growing up. they feel that they're in a better situation, and they kind of brush off the fact that they're still in a toxic setting.
Exactly. Exactly.
But anywho, I digress.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Richard, Kimberly, Mr. Mines, Miss Urban, thank you. Durwood, Deatrice. We thank you all
Everybody,
for just
yeah.
everybody for joining us and for taking place. Please, please, please make sure you join in on this conversation. I know a lot of you from different walks of life. I know some of you are in the medical profession, some of you are in social work. I'm looking at one in particular. I know that she does a lot of social work situations. And so I encourage anyone, for any pointers, any tips, any stories, anything that you would care to share with us, because there are people out there who are hurting.
And like and share this video.
Yeah, please, please, please. This is going to be one of those real important ones, where we can't stress enough the need for this information to get out there. This is going to be our last show from this particular location. Our studio is moving. We got lots of announcements, but that'll come later. But I will say, so we want to make it a point because, like I said, this is going to be a really important show. So please, 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 the number is it's already posted, but I'm going to say it again, 317-288-7454, if you'd like to call and join in the conversation. Woosah, we haven't even gotten started yet. Woosah. Woosah.
Those of you that believe in the power of prayer, I need you to pray for my mental stability during this movie. I'm talking about this movie during the it's like
it's gonna be a movie.
Look,
I told you,
Kayana's
just like, look, we're gonna write us a couple scripts. We about to go holler at Tyler Perry.
Because this thing called life is no joke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a couple of questions.
Okay, I'm going to read the comments while you pull that up.
Okay.
So Miss Annette says, good evening. And she says she's hopping in and out. Thank you, Annette. That's our big sister, Annette. Our other big sister, Deatrice, she said shared. Miss Angela Elaine says, psychologists say that we tend to choose from what we are comfortable with. That is why we should get help to help us identify the root of the problem before we can be healed and make better selections.
Yes, yes, and yes. But the problem is the ones with the problem, 9 times out of 10, won't go get the help that they need.
Or
continue, my sister.
I don't have a problem. I don't know what you're talking about.
I got a bullet that can help you.
Will you stop it? No blinky. We're not shooting anybody. You can't say that on air that we're going to go shoot people. What happens if we actually do it? Then they get you for premeditated. You can't say that.
I'll be in Mississippi when it happens.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, y'all see what we did.
No, I'm not really gonna shoot anybody. I'm more of a I'm more of a bring a knife to a gunfight kind of girl. I like to I love the feel of that flesh. So I'm that one that brings a knife to the gunfight. But all jokes aside, when I just want to just for the sake of a survey, how many people knows someone that has been psychologically abused verbally? Just throw likes,
little emojis,
thumbs or anger faces. That's it. If you know someone that has gone through relationship where you may be the one that was in the relationship, but if you know someone that's dealt with that, wow.
Okay, some of those were me. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah.
Wow.
And the ones that aren't me.
And then the ones that, and the sad part is there's so many people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that have a smile on their face
Mm.
that you would never ever think were in the midst of a living hell, because people have become so accustomed to, you know, quote unquote, keeping people out of their business. So they would rather stay in dysfunction than move forward to a place of peace, which is unfortunately quite sad. But when you're dealing with a person that deals with anxiety, it is a when you're anxious, your senses are heightened tremendously. This says that it says anxiety is showing a high level of awareness for everyone and everything around you. You get so in tune with the people around you that you can read their slightest moves and detect a change based on the way they sound when they say something or the way they talk. You have, it says anxiety is an unfounded fear without reason. It's a constant state of walking the knife edge of worry and fear, and it is emotionally and mentally exhausting, which once again leads to a
Okay.
potential
Now,
breakdown.
hold on. I want to clarify on this particular, because she is giving the strictest definition of anxiety. Because it said unfounded fear. So we are giving the strictest definition of anxiety. We are not, as of yet, to this point, we are not talking about anxiety as it relates to being verbally abused.
Correct.
At this point in time, we are just providing not an explanation, a definition, if you will, an overview,
Building a foundation for the
an
topic.
overview
Yeah.
of anxiety.
Yeah. So it's like anxiety is trying to repair things that aren't broken, be it a friendship or a relationship. It's the voice in your head, the one that keeps making you doubt yourself about everything from your friendships and relationships to minor things like locking the door and turning off appliances before leaving the house and then going back home to check.
I do that.
Yeah, sometimes. When, it's like anxiety shows itself in that part of you that tries so hard to please other people. Anxiety is you trying to overcome your feelings of inferiority by overcompensation. How many people do we know that give so much of themselves until there's nothing of themselves left and they find themselves completely broken down? They find themselves, we have 24 hours in a whole day. But then you've done so much for everyone else until when it's time for you to do the things you need to do for yourself, you have no energy. You have no mental, you're mentally and physically exhausted. So when you start trying to do something for yourself, you find yourself waking up.
Why are you talking about me and I'm sitting right here and you look at me dead in my face? You see I'm not looking at you?
You say I'm talking about me?
Anyhow.
I'm just saying, because, I'm guilty as well. Where you give so much of yourself. How many of you all are guilty of overcompensating?
Slept outside in a park to get away from him. Still have nightmares to this day, 22 years ago.
Wow. And see, so it just kind of goes to show that it sticks.
It's just been there, yeah.
It sticks with you. It sticks with you. It says, beyond everything, anxiety lies in your caring heart. You are so soft-hearted that you want to hurt the feelings of other people. It's not you wanting to make a wrong move, but before it all goes poof. More than this, anxiety is summed up in the burning desire to be accepted and liked, which sometimes make you try to hard. So you find yourself digging a hole for yourself, and it's like, what in the name of Sam Walton? How did I get to this point?
Yep.
How did I get here? How did I get here? Well, one of the things that we're
Beatrice says, I'm so guilty, but I've stopped. Life is too short. Amen, Bo. Amen, big sister.
what you said.
Yes.
Okay, now my sister gave the definition of what verbal abuse is, but do you know how to recognize it?
Do I?
Not you, but do you all know how to recognize verbal abuse? Thumbs up if you say, if you know, if you feel you're pretty, if you're pretty good at kind of gauging what verbal abuse is. Thumbs
Kim
up.
says, my body did break down. I can't do no more anymore. She did, because, I mean, she was one of those who, bent over backwards, forwards, sideways, and literally, just with her family and everything else, she just gave and gave and gave until she just absolutely had nothing left. And then, we all, but, and the thing about it is she still does. She's still the big sister trying to watch over everybody, trying to, you know what I mean? She's still that's her. That's all I can say. That's her.
Yeah, I
That's
see
her.
a couple of names that I know that are like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I see a couple of people sitting in this room that are like that as well.
I don't know what y'all about.
But
You should stop that, Steve.
But it's like, what is verbal abuse and how to recognize abusive behavior and what to do next. So just a FYI, we will be providing resources for individuals that are dealing with this or know someone that is, so that you can share. Okay, why didn't you tell me I was looking like alfalfa? I have a one little twig.
Oh.
See, yeah, see. I thought you loved.
I do love you. I wasn't looking at your hair.
Stop it, letting me look like alfalfa.
But
I love you.
I love you.
But but getting on back to the actual topic, it says abuse comes in many forms, not all of which are physical, which has been established. It's like you're likely to hear about verbal abuse in the context of romantic relationships or parent-child relationships, but it can also occur in other family relationships, socially, or on the job. It says verbal and emotional abuse takes a toll. It can sometimes escalate into physical abuse, because oftentimes people think about it once, when you're getting knocked upside the head, be you male or female. While the
man or two to get knocked upside.
Yeah, while they're in the midst of going through the physical aspects, you got the verbal that's coming forth. But a lot of times people don't realize the verbal that has led up to the verbal and physical can oftentimes be more debilitating and
Yeah.
destructive, because if you stay beyond the verbal and it gets to the physical, you've already been broken down
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? I'm stuck.
Deatra says, even sarcasm and hidden humor can be abusive.
Don't be getting into my list. I'm just teasing, but you're exactly right. That's exactly right.
One of the things, 5 things everyone must understand about verbal abuse, and we're just going to kind of play off of each other. Are the things that we're reading from our simpatico. And we're talking about verbal abuse and actual abuse, and it says the effect of verbal aggression, as far as identifying verbal abuse, when the effect of verbal aggression is greater than the expression of love. I am so busy tearing you down in 54 ways. I am so busy trying to hurt you with my words, trying to destroy you, trying to make you feel what I think you should feel about yourself, about our situation, about whatever, that I forget that this is someone who I said that I love. And more importantly, I forget who's watching.
How can I love you when I don't
Who's
love me?
listening. Ooh. How can I love you when I don't love me? And, I did a post and I said, one of the, having someone who loves you does not negate, it does not stop, it does not cancel out the work. And it is work. The work that is done and has to be done for self-love.
Now, you're welcome to chime in at any time over there, Mr. Shake Your Head. But, and that's true.
My ex-husband used to moo like a cow to indicate that I was a cow. Yeah, see.
Girl, don't get me
So I
started
was
talking
verbally
about that.
abusive. So was I verbally abusive. Oh, so I was verbally abusive when I told my ex he had to get his ass out for lying.
No, that's called self-preservation,
Two different things.
which we will deal with. But it says, okay, what do you all say the difference is between a normal argument, or between two people, and a verbally abusive exchange?
A verbal attack. A verbal attack. What would you say?
What would I say?
What would you say?
I believe that a healthy argument it's two-sided. It's not loud, and there's no name called. Because
Wow,
once
now
you
I
start
like
calling
that.
names, you can't really come back from that. You can't really come back from being called a dirty, nasty, low down, stinking, whatever, or no good for nothing, something. How you gonna call me all these names and then 2 hours later you want to get some? That don't make sense.
And from the mouth of a man,
Let me tell you something. Don't talk shit to me. I'm sorry, I don't have a moment.
we said helpful was the last, as strict as we were gonna get it tonight. And she made that rule, not me.
Okay.
So if I gotta
Let
edit
me redo it.
Okay.
Do not come for someone in an emotionally, verbally aggressive manner that is filled with
A whole bunch of stuff.
floating,
Whole bunch of
then-
adverbs and participles.
and then 2 breaths later talking about I love you, or
Will you come make love to me?
come and cuddle with me.
I will.
Bitch, please. Oh, said I did it again. Ooh, okay. So, no, okay. I'm gonna drink some water. I need some. I don't have no tea. I need water.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
nerves bad.
Yeah. So, that it says, we have a couple people. Now, what would you all say the difference is? Okay, right, you must love yourself first. Okay, that's in reference to what we were saying. When an individual does not love themselves, they do not have the capacity to love anyone else. Thank you, Beverly, that was accurate. It was something that they that
They
they
were
were
already
already thinking. And it says, I agree, that's a great definition of a healthy argument.
That statement about Kim, that Kim makes about it being something that they were already thinking. Now, people talk about, a drunk tongue speaks a sober mind, because, when you get like plastered, you ain't got no filter, a drunk tongue speaks a sober mind. But let me tell you something else. When that tongue is also pissed off to the point, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be that they are pissed off, but when they have lost all rationale, when they have lost all composure, when they have gone beyond that point, that's when you're going to hear the truth. That's when you're going to hear what they really think, what they really feel, what their opinion of you honestly and truly is. I don't care that, I didn't mean it. I was angry. My feelings was hurt. I didn't mean to call you everything but a child of God and the love child of Satan. Because, I don't really feel that way about you. I don't really think that. That's not really how I feel.
Right.
Baby. Continue, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sitting up here. If I had the keyboard or organ handy, I would just fall in behind you, because you preaching a whole sermon. You're preaching a whole sermon over here. It says we all get into arguments, but sometimes we lose our cool, that composure you were talking about, and yell. It's part of being human, but verbal abuse isn't normal. The trouble is, when you're involved in a verbally abusive relationship, it can wear you down and seem normal to you. Here are some examples of what normal disagreements look like. First thing that Steve said, they don't dissolve into name calling or personal attacks. They don't happen every day.
It's an abusive argument when the individual tries to make the other person change or accept what they say as the gospel.
It says arguments, that these are what normal disagreements look like. Arguments revolve around a basic issue. They aren't character assassinations. You listen and try to understand the other person's position even when you're angry. One of you may yell or say something truly awful out of frustration, but it's an unusual occurrence and you work through it together. Even if you can't agree completely, you're able to compromise or move on without punishments or threats. That's normal. Arguments aren't a zero-sum game. One person won't win at the detriment of the other. Now it says, consider it a red flag when the other person engages in these behaviors. Here's where we start turning verbally abusive. They insult or attempt to humiliate you. Then they accuse you of being overly sensitive or say that it was a joke and you have no sense of humor.
They frequently yell or scream at you.
Arguments take you by surprise, but you get blamed for starting them.
How the hell I'm gonna start some shit and I was asleep? Sorry. The initial disagreement sets off a string of accusations and dredging up of unrelated issues to put you on the defense.
They try to make you feel guilty and position themselves as the victim.
They save their hurtful behaviors for when you're alone, but act completely different when others are around. Hold on, I'm gonna say that again. For the people in the cheap seats and up in the back of the balcony that didn't hear me, I'm gonna say it again. They save their hurtful behaviors for when you're alone, when they have isolated you, when they can back you into a corner, when you have no other defense and where there are no witnesses, but at completely different when others are around. Oh, woe is me.
They get into your personal space or block you from moving away.
Back to the isolation.
They hit the wall, pound their fist, or throw things. And they want credit for not having hit you. They want credit for not whooping your tail.
Okay, well then I might be verbally abusive sometimes because I tell people all the time, you lucky you don't just beat your ass.
But it's one of those deals where it sounds, these signs sound a whole lot like our show last week.
Mm-hmm.
The narcissist. Yes, 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 yes.
So we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. We're going to kind of break down the different types of verbal abuse. Number one, name calling. Whether it's a romantic relationship, parent-child relationship, or the bully on the playground, name calling is unhealthy.
Let me tell you something about the bully on the playground. That joker can be in your office. They can be in your church. Mm-hmm. Yes, I said it, saints. They can be in the church. They can be in your home. They can be in a damn squad car. Mm-hmm. The bully on the playground is not just for children. Hell, they could be on the other end of your phone, on the other end of the keyboard, on the other side of your computer.
Or your bed.
Or your bed.
It says sometimes obvious, sometimes disguised. It's sometimes obvious and is sometimes disguised as pet names or teasing. Habitual name calling is a method of belittling you, kind of like the cow example that Beverly
When he was talking
mentioned.
about
Yeah.
this world would say move.
For example, you don't get it, sweetie, because you're just too dumb. It's no wonder everybody says you're a jerk.
Hold on. And in that one, when we talk about, they can be anywhere and they can be any again, we're not always just talking about romantic relationships.
Correct.
Like as I just said. So on this particular one, and this is from an article in Psychology Today, and it says, the most maddening and most common response I get when I write about the daughters and sons of unloving mothers is that people point out the ones that write about they were only verbally abused. Science knows better, but the culture does not. The mantra seems to be that if you're not bleeding or physically maimed, you are not really hurt. As a culture, we are so resistant to acknowledging the impact of verbal aggression. It's taken much effort to convince people that the bully in the schoolyard, we just talked about that, isn't a normal part of growing up. There is still considerable ambivalence about acknowledging that normal sibling rivalry can become bullying in the living room. Domestic abuse, which often requires evidence of physical trauma to be believed as genuinely damaging. But the psychological maltreatment of children occurs when a person conveys to a child that he or she is worthless, flawed, unloved, unwanted, endangered, or only of value in meeting another's needs.
When parents try to pit children in the middle of adult situations.
Pit them against one another.
Use them as the pawns in the game because one partner has moved on
She
to a
says no
healthy
name calling.
relationship. Who said that?
Kim. She said no name calling.
Get out of our conversation in the car because I definitely said that. Your car's bugged.
She probably did. Now, if anybody would, it'd be her. She'd done it. Because when I talk about like the older sisters that watch, that always see what you doing, and I always just like, look here, I'm gonna call you up out randomly out the blue, and I'm gonna check you. I'm gonna send you a text message, and I'm gonna cuss you out. But I love you, boo boo. God bless you.
Yeah. But yeah, so when she said that, that was just funny because I did say that I was gonna call out some names tonight.
No, you're not. Okay, wait. So back to this. Um, is it surprising many daughters of unloving mothers remark that they wish that they had been beaten so that their scars would show and people would believe them? I said that not all, it's sometimes it's the internal scars that, are more detrimental.
And those are the ones that create those quote unquote what people like to call generational curses. A lot of times it's not a generational curse. A lot of times it's one person that's hurt inflicting hurt on someone else, and just the cycle continuing because no one takes the time to stop the bullcorn and get the help that's necessary to end that cycle of abuse. That's not a curse.
Right.
That's a cycle of abuse.
Right. People talk about generational
Everything
curses.
is not. Now, don't get me wrong. Everything in the world is not spiritual. It can be related to spirituality, but a lot of times things that need to be addressed from a medical standpoint.
Yes.
Going up to the altar is great, but there are times where getting slapped down to the ground by the preacher at the front of the church is not going to turn around and help you in your mental instability. Sometimes you got to go sit in the chair or lay back on the couch of an actual therapist, whether it's a counselor, professional counselor, psychologist, or if you need medicine, a psychiatrist. And for those that have people in their lives, and I'm going to look at the camera when I say this, I might need to cross my eyes because we're on YouTube too. But for those of you who have people in your lives that you know are mentally unstable, sometimes you need to petition the courts to have them admitted to a facility, just like you would if they were on drugs. Just like, when you see the outward displays of substance abuse, when children are involved, people are quick to get involved to try to get a person into rehab. But because there are no physical scars because of the verbal abuses, then people are more reluctant. And then when something detrimental happens because the person has completely snapped off the rocker, then everybody wants to backtrack and it's like, well, I should have. Man, I wish I had it. But by that time, you
right.
yeah. Just like the woman that I'm thankful for that woman here in Indiana that called the school when her son left with those guns to go to that school to shoot up his classmates. Now, those of you that aren't local, because I don't know if it went national or not, but there was a mother about 3 weeks ago who called the school. Her son had someone at gunpoint.
Yes.
And had them drive them to the the intermediate school. It wasn't even the middle school, the intermediate school. And she instantly got on the phone and called 911, and they were able to get things in place and shut that school down to protect those children. Yeah. So because of her seeing what was going on, and because she made that phone call, regardless of how much she loved her child, because she reacted, lives were saved.
Yeah.
So when we say, when you see something, say something.
Y'all know I am huge on that.
We mean when you see people are unstable, or when you see behaviors that are not safe to the well-being of not just people with firearms, but when people are verbally abusive, get them the help they need before it goes too far. People don't want to do that because of, I don't want this person mad. To hell with them being mad at you.
Or the stigma of having to go to, to seek help. And I was one of those people where I was just like, I don't really, I don't want to go see nobody's damn shrink. And then one of my sisters became really active in mental health. And in my conversations with her, not like formal therapy sessions or whatever, but it is in my interactions with her and her talking to me about what she did and just going through and like even just reading some of her, the commentaries, some of the papers that she wrote, some of the things that, that she herself was going through and that she had to, I was just like, you know what? Damn it, everybody needs to. But I will say when I see it, I'm going to be like, boo boo, you need some help. Let me get you some phone numbers because you need some help. And if you are one of those people who is to the extreme, I'm gonna be like, okay, look, this is this is a what's the favorite one? The Stress Center, St. Vincent Stress. I'm gonna tell y'all. I won't say it's my. I'm saying it's my favorite because it's the first one that comes to my brain every single time. Because I have known people who have had to take up, they've had paid vacations at the Stress Center. I'm okay with that because they came out better on the other side.
But they had to get in there first.
One went by choice. No, two went by choice. One, you can go here or you can go here. But you got to get somewhere.
Sometimes we can petition the courts.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, if you are able to get a medical doctor to say, or a psychiatrist to say, or counselor, professional counselor to say, this person needs psychological help, you are able to petition the courts to have a person court mandated into therapy.
Yes.
So that way you don't have to deal with the repercussions of them being upset with you if it's because of a professional recommendation.
Yes.
I know.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
let's say
okay.
comments.
So Kim says no name calling heifers. Yeah. I ain't call nobody by name. Leave me alone. Beverly Ann says, coming from both physical and emotional abuse, it has been more challenging to overcome the verbal than the physical. Absolutely. I knew someone would call me princess, not as a term of endearment, but to slyly claim that I was high maintenance, which I'm not, and that I had high standards, which I do. Heads, yeah.
Okay.
Beverly Ann, verbal goes into the core. It doggone sure does. Alvin says, and words leave far deeper scars. Amen to that. Barbara says, good evening. Just getting off the road. Had to get my head together before popping on. Hello.
Hello,
Okay.
Barbara.
So when I tell you all, my sister that became a mental health professional, and I went through her journey with her as far as like reading papers, as far as some of the case studies that she had, as far as, just kind of talking to her and she making me a believer that every damn body needs to go. That would be the woman, Barbara Grant Kelly. And I will say that
I love Barbara.
she's like the most astounding person ever. I love Barbara. The ones that I call my sisters are truly, truly, truly phenomenal, powerful in their own rights, amazing, amazing women. And she is definitely one of my sisters. Like if anything ever happens to me, she gets the alien princess, amazing kind of a person. So when I say that's that lady, that's that lady.
Depends on the state for such orders. Most referrals have to be from an MD. Okay, so
She says, "Why, thank you."
and Alvin says physical pain dissipates, emotional pain can be reoccurring.
Yes.
And all it takes is something that causes you to remember what caused the trauma. And that's the part where the anxiety
The
comes
reoccurring
in.
anxiety.
Yes. Now, let me hit the second type of verbal abuse that we hit, condescension. It says it is another attempt to belittle you. The abuser's comments can be sarcastic, disdainful, and patronizing. It all is all to make themselves feel superior. Kind of like what Beatrice said about that individual trying to call her princess. Okay, he may have been trying to belittle her, but he was actually showing that he wasn't worth her time empty dag blasted way. Because if you can't appreciate a woman with standards, 2 tears in a bucket for you, boo boo. A man that is truly a man would want a woman that has standards. Not one that's going to turn around and put up with empty and everything that he puts down. Because if you with a woman that truly cares about you, or you want a woman to really care about you, that female is going to turn around and tell you what it's going to take for you to become a better you. She's not going to be your doormat. Now, you just have to drop your nuts and be able to accept it when it hurts, when she's telling you the truth. But the reality is, you would want a woman that's going to say, baby, your breath stink. Go brush your teeth. Instead of letting you get up in people's faces and be like, oh, honey, this, that, and the third, y'all going out, baby. You need to handle that right there. You need to handle that. You need to trim your beard up, boo-boo, so you don't walk out of here looking like a woolly booger. You know what I'm saying? We don't need you want somebody that has a set of standards. And if you've got to turn around and try to chop her down, like my sister D, the other D. Mm-hmm. She has height to her. She's a basketball player. Mm-hmm. And people have tried to slick side talk about her because she loves her stilettos. So what that she's naturally 6 feet tall? But that sister girl rocks the heck out of her 4, 5, and 6 inch heels. And it's not her fault that you are stumpy. It's not her fault that you are stumpy. Just because she was blessed with those beautiful long legs, it's not her fault that you 4'3". Don't try to talk about her legs and her beautiful height because your legs aren't as long as your penis. I'm just saying. So don't try to be messy with people. Don't try to tear people down because you don't have the self-confidence that you need for yourself. Okay, now that I've preached my sermon, y'all can send the offering to 1-800-PAY-D. I'm just saying,
Oh, Jesus.
Woo, the third one is criticism.
She said, what the hell is a woolly booger?
Don't put me down. Go down. Yes, sir, Alvin. Look, in the Alvin. Look, 2 times for Alvin. Yes, sir. I'm with you, bro. When you're right.
I don't read them.
I'm with you. That's Mr. Keep It Real Carter right there. Yes, that is Mr. Keep It Real Carter. I love that. Miss Kimberly says she just said yes, I said that, and I was trying to be he 4'3". I'm just trying to twin, I'll be nice. I see your shocked face. I'll be nice, twin. I promise. I'm a brighten it in. Okay.
Lord.
The third type of verbal abuse is criticism. There is nothing wrong with constructive criticism, but in a verbally abusive relationship, it is particularly harsh and persistent in an attempt to chip away at your self-esteem, kind of like the long legs. Example. Mm-hmm. Alvin says,
For example, you're always upset about something, always playing the victim. That's why nobody likes you. You screwed up again. Can't you do anything right?
Alvin, I wish you were in the studio, baby, right now, because I would be on the floor. Don't you know I would be on the floor.
Deliberately inflicted emotional and physical pain hurt more. Mm-hmm. So that leads into your next one. Degradation.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you know what? Let me go on and take your phone from you. Let me just go on. Degradation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you sit just like that. Alfred, I love you. Abusers want you to feel bad about yourself. They employ humiliation and shame to degrade you and eat away at your self-confidence.
Ooh, Kimberly, yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Shut up. Okay. Before I came along, you were nothing. Without me, you'll be nothing again. You know, I heard someone say this damn near verbatim. Well, actually, it was said out loud, but then they turned around and wrote it.
And
Because
you
they
know
wanted
what?
to re-emphasize
They're
that.
exactly right. I am nothing to you. You were They were right. I don't mean anything to you. That's why you're talking to me this way. And without me, you will still be nothing. You're right. I will be nothing to you still.
I mean, look at
But
yourself.
I will be everything to somebody else.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for complimenting me while you're trying to put me down.
I mean, look at yourself.
Hookhead heifer.
Who else would want you? Manipulation. See, this is my favorite one. And on this one, we both give me hands. We're gonna say a quick prayer. I'm gonna take deep cleansing breaths. Okay. Manipulation. Manipulation is an attempt to make you do something without making it a direct order. Make no mistake about it, it is meant to control you and keep you off balance. If you do that, it proves you don't care about your family and everyone will know it.
Okay, my heart rate just went up.
You do this for me if you really loved me.
Can we have a conversation we had in the car on the way over here?
No. Look. Trying to guilt trip someone is manipulation. Trying to make everything someone else's fault so that they will do what you want them to do is manipulation.
Lying to people to try to get them to do your dirty work and attack the people that you have an issue with is
Manipulation. Dangerous, but manipulation.
let's go to the next one because my blood pressure's going up and I can feel it.
Okay, I don't know how to turn the button. Oh, I pushed the button on back. Is this that phone?
Beside the short button. Yeah.
Fix your phone. Look, you see me fix
Feel
your
my
phone.
blood pressure going up. Yeah.
Okay. Verbal aggression and abuse are internalized. Let me say this. When you are verbally attacking someone, when you are being aggressive towards them, when you are being abusive towards them, not only is that person, is that building up in that person and that is causing that person to have all kinds of intestinal issues, it's causing them to have all kinds of, stomach ulcers, is headaches, tension, strokes, blood pressure rising, heart rates rising, all of this and all of that. And we're not even going to talk about the mental and the psychological that you are doing. Just the browbeating you are giving them that will do damage, that will be reflected in within them for the rest of their life, always in the back of their mind, unless they also get some attentive help. However, the innocent freaking bystanders,
The children.
the children. And see, and this is where it becomes a very personal topic for me. Because one of the things that we're about to talk about next is the effects of verbal abuse on men, on women, and on children. Do not tolerate it. I know of a situation, and I'm because a lot of you who do know me, you know my ex-husband, and well, Kiana's father, and y'all know he's not right sometimes. He don't mean no harm most of the time, but he's not right. But he would say things to, especially, and he was just trying to be playful. He was just trying to give them just little pet names or whatever. But being that they were young ladies and they were going through self-image issues,
They stuck with him.
it was damaging. And I really, really, really had to put my foot in his ass. I was like, I love you. I will kill you dead for messing with these girls. You don't even understand when you call them these names, when you say these things to them, you don't understand what it is you're doing.
Them.
And it wasn't that he intended to be verbally abusive to them. But I mean, that is just one example of, what it is that you say
He's
to
my
children.
protector. He is I look up to him.
Yeah, this is daddy.
Right.
So if daddy is calling me fat, and daddy is calling me piglet, and daddy is calling me whatever, then there's got to be some truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was I told him, I'd punch you in your eye, keep playing. Say something else like that to one of these girls. He has 3 daughters. Say something else. I dare you. Say something else. We also had nieces around. Say something else. He called one of them, he used to call her Twiggy all the time. And she was one who had an issue because, all the rest of the females, look.
Pretty long hair.
Look, the thickness runs in our genes on both sides of the family. And then we had this one little niece, and she was just as Twiggy as she wanted to be. She was cute. She had a cute little figure, but, she was a little on the thin side, and she was very self-conscious about it. Especially when all the rest of us around her were so thick. And he called her Twiggy, and I punched him in his back. He was like, I didn't call her fat. You were so stupid. But again, and that's not to poke fun, and that's not to make light of the situation, although I am trying to give us a, kind of a moment. But I mean, that is just a prime example of what happens when what we say to these children and how, and how we say to these children, it lasts, it lingers with them.
It
So,
does. I needed that woosah moment.
yes.
Okay, the next one is blame. We're all at fault for something once in a while, but a verbally abusive person blames you for their behavior. They want you to believe that you bring verbal abuse on yourself. It's your fault that I'm coming at you stupid. It's like accusations is next. If someone is repeatedly accusing you of things, they may be jealous or envious. Or perhaps they're the one guilty of that behavior. Either way, it can make you question whether you're doing something inappropriate. Example, I saw the way you looked at them. You can't tell me there's nothing going on there. Another one, why won't you give me your cell phone if you've got nothing to hide?
Why the hell do I have to give you my cell phone? I may not have a damn thing. Hell, I might be planning a surprise for you.
Heck, I might be playing Bejeweled or Double Down Casino. That might be why I'm so focused on my doggone phone.
Okay, let me read comments. You make my nerves bad.
I got a comment.
Come on, come on.
I saw Mimi yesterday, and the dude had a very good point, even though he got some backlash for it, because basically he was chilling with his woman. She's like, let me see phone.
Okay.
It's like, why I gotta let you see the phone? So why you gonna let me see your phone? If you know ain't nothing in the phone, then just let me see the phone. So he's like, fine. He gives her the phone. Then he proceeds to go into the other room, get her suitcase, start packing her stuff. Because he said that if you got a right to go through my phone, and when you don't find nothing, then then this can't really go anywhere, because you don't trust me enough to not stay out of my phone. Which means, why should I trust you and not be mad at you for wanting to go through my phone in the first place? Because the relationship at this point is reaching impasse. You don't trust me. So if you find something, you're going to be mad. So when you don't find nothing, I should be mad. So therefore, we got nowhere to go. And I understood it. When he said it and explained it, it made a whole lot of sense. Seemed a little harsh at first. But yeah, that's I mean, because if you go through my phone and you find something, you gonna be like, why you got all that stuff in your phone? Get out. So then by the same token, when you go through my phone and don't find nothing, then I should be able to do the same thing.
My husband has all my passwords. I have his.
My phone ain't locked.
Right. Well, I'm just saying it's not locked, but I'm like for emails, and if for whatever reason something does get locked out or whatever the case may be, it's no big.
It shouldn't be a big.
It's
I don't
no
like-
big
Only
because
reason I actually lock my phone because it's easier for me to unlock the phone, my fingerprint, than it is for me to actually swipe and do. I touch the back of the phone, it unlocks.
and it's open. Yeah.
So that's the only reason I got a lock on mine. It's
Well,
fingerprint.
and even on the flip side of that, it's called when you have children around. Because I used to, when we lived in Mississippi, there was a child that we would, keep on occasion, and he was very inquisitive. I have a grown woman phone. So having a grown woman phone, there were grown woman things in there that a child had no business having access to.
Yeah, I don't think a child knows. Oh, I play Candy Crush. And
Right.
grab the phone
They
and-
turn around and start pushing buttons and might end up seeing some stuff they don't have any business or whatever. Not necessarily, like not nude shots or stuff like that, but sometimes, memes can be rather risque and different things like that. So, and then if they mess around
Yeah,
and
pornographic.
right.
You grab my phone, you're going to get some nudity. So stay.
But you see what I'm saying? But it's like, aside from that, because I would let him watch videos, like if we were out and about. And so he would be used to just being, to having the phone. So, so we had to flip that and had to get the tablet, let him
You had
let
a
him
tablet,
use the
you-
tablet,
okay.
kept the tablet clean.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back and read some of the comments.
Please.
And Beverly Ann says, "That's why you don't have any friends." I don't even remember what that part was about, but she was like, "That's why you don't have any friends." I'm like, "Oh Lord, if all you see are my flaws, then why do you have me around?" Barb said, "I once said that a parent's life is a child's guidebook. So when I encounter those with a slithered and abusive tongue, I am forced to look at the tree from which this apple fell." So as people who are interviewing potential partners in life, we must search one's past. Alvin says, "And if you endure the put downs and the constant criticisms, then you have the victim have a personal problem with yourself." True. Shante was like, "Lord, say it louder." Your twin says manipulation is the worst of all. Alvin was like, "Woosa, woosa, woosa." YouTube been at it for forever. I don't know who she talking about.
You and Will.
Oh yeah, 20 years and counting. Alvin says, "Oh my God, the children are sometimes the worst victims, and they are potentially the first to repeat the cycle. They get abused at home and then come to school and abuse their peers."
And he's an educator
Yes.
of young children.
Kim about to get him. She said, "Colin who Piglet." It was years ago. He ain't done it. He ain't done it in years. It's been
Ignorance,
some
no
years.
excuse.
Barb says, "Just spoke with a friend who was watching friends' children. The 10-year-old, when agitated by her 4-year-old brother, will say, 'That one scares me. I'm not sure if he is right.' This verbiage does not come from the 10-year-old mind. It came from modeling an adult. Modeling an adult. It is now ingrained and possibly very difficult to correct. And if not corrected, could allow this young little girl to turn into an abusive woman." Now, you might say this was harmless, but it was said enough that it has sparked concern in this family that sought me out. They are on the right path. Unfortunately, it is not caught enough in others, and in turns makes today's convo necessary. Absolutely. Absolutely. Most of the abusing behaviors are learned during the formative years. Then you grow up and continue the cycle unless someone points it out. Hell, even if they point it out, unless someone gets help.
Right.
That can be hurtful and long lasting in children. I've never spoken a word out of order to my daughter. I've given constructive criticism, but my babies are so precious to me. I treated them like jewelry.
And he does, OMG.
Yes, he says, keep your hands off my, hey, stop that. Twin says, when someone needs to see your phone, to me, that shows a lack of trust, or it could be a form of manipulation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
I so agree. I have never gone through a man's phone or his wallet without his permission. If there is no trust, just forget it.
Yes.
Most definitely control, mistrust, and manipulation. This is okay. This is acceptable behavior. This is acceptable form of communication with someone else. And I just be damned. Got another comment. Let's see. What Alvin said. I'm not reading your comments, Alvin. Leave me alone. You can break up. You can break up a fist fight quicker than you can break up an argument. Absolutely. Demetri Pitts-Williams says verbal abuse is easier to become the norm because it's easier to tolerate.
Yes.
Gaslighting. You know, someone accused me of this. Gaslighting is a systematic effort to make you question your own version of events. It can make you apologize for things that aren't your fault. It can also make you more dependent on the abuser. Let me say that again. It can also make you more dependent on the abuser. It can make you more dependent on your freaking abuser because that's what they're telling you is the situation. For example, you can recall an event, an argument, an agreement. The abuser denies that it happened, or that's not the way that happened. And no matter what the hell you say, their version is the only version that counts.
Even if they're witnesses.
We saw ABC XYZ says a disinterest, says a third party, but you're like, no, that ain't how it happened. It happened this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way. I said it. This is the way it happened. That makes it gospel and the truth. Bite my butt. They like to tell you they may tell you it's all in your mind, you dreamed it, or are making it up. They tell other people that you are forgetful or have emotional problems to solidify the illusion.
Circular arguments. It isn't unusual for two people to disagree or argue about the same thing more than once until they find common ground. But abusers will reignite that old argument again and again just to push your buttons, never intending to meet in the middle.
Okay.
For example, your job requires you to put in overtime without notice. Every time it happens, the argument about your tardiness starts anew. There must be somebody up there or something going on. What you got going on? You don't be stuff. You don't be. Yeah, something going on here.
Okay,
Right.
look, we had this argument. We came to a conclusion. It was over.
But then we start having a disposition about something else, and that comes back up.
We ain't even got to have a disposition about something else. We had this argument. We came to a conclusion. It is over. Why 30 minutes later are you bringing up this mess again and we're going round and around and around and around in a circle again, and this goes on for hours and hours and days and hours, and it's ridiculous.
Another example.
Manipulation.
Yeah, you've
Circular
made it clear
arguments.
that you're not ready for kids, but your partner brings it up every month.
If you don't take your guns, go
Okay.
somewhere.
Now the next one is it's one of those things that kind of ticks me off. Threats. Outright threats can mean that verbal abuse will escalate. They're meant to frighten you into compliance. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that they're going to come for you physically. Sometimes they threaten to do self-harm. Sometimes they threaten to harm others. Or they will find a way to be manipulative to try to find someone else to bring harm.
Any questions from this thread? Do. Gaslighting is a dangerous form of manipulation.
Yes, ma'am.
Typically an act that narcissists use on a regular basis. There's that word again.
Mm-hmm. Bless you.
Excuse me. Barbara says subtle comments to communicate a negative are not always meant to deliberately harm, but still hurts and harms. So therein, it is more important that the one receiving the comments recognizes and responds accordingly, so that they communicate to the sender her words are not allowed. Example: when the young man called his sister Miss Piggy.
Hence, rump. I see the small t, but hence, rump.
Yeah, let's get this one.
Um,
Your twin says threats, run.
right. I would just kill myself then. Now,
That one?
right here, it says the examples. When you come home tonight, you might find a for sale sign on the lawn, and I might just be gone with the kids. Hence, putting children
Once again,
at risk,
which,
is not fair to them or their development. Because we as adults teach growing adults how to handle conflict. If all they see is conflict being handled with bullhorn and by manipulation and by all of the stuff that we're naming off now, then how in the name of Sam Walton, if I have a daughter, can I expect her to be a good mate for someone? If I have a son, how can I expect him to be a good mate for someone if all he knows is this bullcrap? The other example that they gave was if you do that, dealing with the threats, if you do that, no one will blame me for how I'd react. But see, if they don't know the backstory, now they can react all they want. But once the backstory comes out, then people are going to be backpedaling and having to apologize. You know what I'm saying? Because reasoning with an abuser is tempting, but unlikely to work. Remember, you're not responsible for someone else's behavior, but you can set boundaries. Start refusing to engage in unreasonable arguments. Let them know you'll no longer respond to or overlook verbal abuse.
Limit your exposure to the abuser as much as possible. If you travel in the same social circles, you might have to make some difficult decisions. If you can't avoid the person altogether, try to keep it down to a situation where others are around. Then, when you're ready, cut all ties if you can. Breaking things off with your abuser can be complicated in some situations, like if you live with them or are dependent upon them in some way. You may find it helpful to speak with a counselor or join a support group. Sometimes an outsider's perspective can help you see things in a new light and figure out what to do next. Healing takes time, but it is important not to isolate yourself. Reach out to supportive friends and family members. If you're in school, talk to a teacher or guidance counselor. If you think it will help, find a therapist who can help you in your recovery.
Now, one thing I will say about this, people need to be careful jumping from one relationship to another.
Yes.
Because if you are jumping from a toxic situation into another situation, you still haven't dealt with your issues from that toxic situation. So you're bringing that into what could potentially be a healthy situation.
Correct.
And you're turning it toxic because
Correct.
you have not dealt with your situation.
Correct.
So if you are, and it's one thing, because see, I've been there where, I was in a relationship and I didn't deal with my stuff And I've said this before. I didn't deal with my stuff. So the person that I ended up in a relationship with next ended up dealing with unnecessary crap because I didn't deal with my stuff.
Right.
So when I talk to my sister, because I talk to my brothers, but I'm real big on talking to my sisters. When I talk to my sisters about be careful, protect your heart, don't lower your standards. Make that scam booger, whether you are in a heterosexual, same-sex relationship, it doesn't matter to me. Whomever you decide to be with, make sure their stuff is clean before they come to you with everything they have, because you don't deserve to have to deal with cleaning up their shit.
Yes, you do say that a lot. Going back to comments, Demetra Pitts says, I have a friend going through that right now, to the point where the children won't even answer their phone.
Wow.
That's all they will know because that's all they see.
Right.
Carrying those demons will kill everything in your path until you heal yourself from the toxins you've become accustomed to.
And that's as heartbreaking.
When you said scam booker, she's like, I live for those names. Okay, so
That's the South coming out of me,
Yes.
sugar. That's the South coming out.
Effects of verbal abuse on children, women, and men. The effects of verbal abuse on children, women, and men follow the same general principle. Verbal abuse causes people to feel fear. However, victims may deny or not recognize their anxiety and feelings of wanting to get away as fear of the abuser. When the victim feels kindness or love from the abuser, they know that it is short-lived and abuse will reoccur. Can I repeat that?
Please.
When a victim feels kindness or love from the abuser, they know that it is short-lived and the abuse will reoccur. Get the hell out. Victims live in a constant state of hyper-awareness, watching for clues of impending abuse. I call them nuclear meltdowns. Victims can't trust the smile of someone they love, and that is a very big deal. The effects of verbal abuse, we'll get to that one in a second. The effects of verbal abuse and emotional abuse entwine, because verbally abusive statements play on the victim's emotions. For example, the simple statement, "You're just looking for a fight," tells the victim what he's doing and thinking, accuses the victim of attacking the abuser, and diverts the topic to a new problem to avoid the fight. Emotionally, the victim feels misunderstood, unimportant, and afraid of what may happen if he presses the issue. Is this how we want our loved ones to feel? The effects of verbal abuse on women and men range from confusion to symptoms of, or the development of, mental disorders. There is substantially more research studies concerning female victims of verbal abuse. But even so, there are commonalities among victims in general. Victims of verbal abuse may have difficulty forming conclusions and making decisions, feel or accept that there is something wrong with them on a basic level, analyze and relive abusive experiences to see where they made mistakes, doubt their ability to communicate, experience self-doubt, low self-esteem, and lose spontaneity or enthusiasm. Believe and say things like everything will be better when the baby is born, or everything will improve after she finds a job. Long-term effects of verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is strongly associated with chronic pain, migraines, frequent headaches, stammering, ulcers, spastic colon, and frequent indigestion, diarrhea, or constipation, along with many stress-related heart conditions. The psychological effects of verbal abuse include fear and anxiety, depression, stress and PTSD, intrusive memories, memory gap disorders, sleep or eating problems, hypervigilated, exaggerated startled response. Oh, excuse me. Can we go back to sleep disorders? Did I say sleep disorders? Sleep disorders. People cannot sleep. Either that or they sleep all the damn time.
Which is
But-
still a disorder.
But again, it's especially prevalent in everything that I'm reading right now are especially prevalent in children. Hypervigilance and exaggerated startle responses, irritability, anger issues, alcohol and drug abuse, suicide, self-mutilation, and assaultive behaviors. The effects of verbal abuse on children ages 18 and under includes substance abuse, more prevalent in males, physical aggression, delinquency, social problems. The more verbally aggressive the parent is, either towards the child or another person, the more pronounced the problem. And the relationship between these problems and verbal aggression does not depend on the child's age, sex, or economic status. Parents who tell their children that they are dumb, bad, etc., raise children who think they are dumb or bad and act as such. Children who hear these things on a constant basis about others will begin to internalize and view the other with disdain. Comments.
Yeah. Kimberly was saying, I can't remember what we were talking about, but she was saying that she was
Going
going
through
through
that right
something
now.
right now.
Barbara says, self-disclosure from the therapist. LOL. Once dealt with a guy in my 20s who told me he would throw himself down the metal stairs outside my apartment building if I did not just come outside and talk to him. He was seriously backing up to the top step of the stairs as I looked out the window. I simply and calmly told him, if you throw yourself down those stairs, I will only call the ambulance. But no, until that happens, I am calling the police. Calling his bluff. He stomped off and just started cursing me out. So in essence, if they express harm to self, excuse me, again, if they express harm to self, that is not your problem.
Correct.
It is theirs. Though it does move you emotionally, get out of your feelings and jump into your rational mind.
Right. Deidre says,
You live a life of walking on eggshells. When I talked about the nuclear meltdowns, there's someone I run around call Hiroshima.
Twin said,
I've discovered that there are more abused men than they're willing to believe.
yes.
Yeah, I'm going to read that statement again. I've discovered that there are more abused men than they are willing to believe. Many men live in denial when it comes to abuse, which is probably why it takes them longer to get back into a relationship. Even if they do, sometimes it affects them like PTSD. Barbara says, or affects their esteem.
Right.
Beverly Ann says, those sleep disorders, especially in children. Oh my goodness. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Barbara, you are absolutely right. I had a guy tell me he didn't think he was worthy of a good relationship due to how his ex conditioned him into believing he was worthless. Very sad.
Wow. Now, we talked and I kind of alluded to like a nervous breakdown. You okay, sissy?
Yeah, the shoulder is jacked up right now.
Yeah. It says, so we're going to talk about the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack. The panic attacks come on suddenly and involve intense and often overwhelming fear. They are accompanied by frightening physical symptoms such as a racing heartbeat, shortness of breath, or nausea. And the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, is DSM-5 for those of you in the industry, recognizes panic attacks and categorizes them as unexpected or expected. Unexpected panic attacks occur without an obvious cause. Expected panic attacks are cued by external stressors, kind of referencing back to what Alvin said about, having those triggers, such as phobias. Panic attacks can happen to anyone, but having more than one may be a sign of a panic disorder. Anxiety attacks aren't recognized in the DSM-5, which is interesting to me. The DSM-5 does, however, define anxiety as a feature of a number of common psychiatric disorders. Anxiety, they define it as a feature of a number of common psychiatric disorders. Symptoms of anxiety include worry, distress, and fear. Anxiety is usually related to anticipation of a stressful situation, experience, or event, and it may come on gradually. The lack of diagnostic recognition of anxiety attacks means that the signs and symptoms are open to interpretation. That is, a person may describe having an anxiety attack, may describe having an anxiety attack and have symptoms that another has never experienced, despite the second person indicating that they too have had an anxiety attack. Okay, now the symptoms, we kind of hit at the two. It said you can experience both an anxiety and panic attack at the same time. For instance, you might experience anxiety while worrying about a potentially stressful situation, such as an important presentation at work. When the situation arrives, anxiety may culminate in a panic attack. Okay, here's some of the symptoms emotionally. Now, these are, right now, I'm going to tell you which ones that they're saying is emotional. I'm going to tell you the difference between the anxiety attack versus the panic attack. The emotional aspect of things, apprehension and worry, that's considered anxiety. Distress,
Anxiety.
restlessness,
Anxiety.
fear,
Anxiety and panic.
right, fear of dying or losing control,
Panic.
a sense of detachment from the world,
Derationalization.
or oneself. Panic.
That's a panic attack.
They say now this goes into the physical aspect of things. Heart palpitations or accelerated heart rate.
Both panic and anxiety.
Chest pain.
Panic and anxiety.
Shortness of breath.
Panicking and anxiety.
Tightness in the throat or feeling like you're choking.
Panic and anxiety.
Dry mouth.
Panic and anxiety.
Sweating.
Okay, all of these are panic and anxiety.
Chills or hot flashes. Trembling or shaking. Numbness or tingling. Nausea, abdominal pain or upset stomach. Headache. Feeling faint or dizzy are symptoms of both.
Yes.
It may be difficult to know whether you're experiencing anxiety or panic attack, but keep in mind the following. Anxiety is typically related to something that is perceived as stressful or threatening. Panic attacks aren't always cued by stressors and often occur out of the blue. So if all of a sudden these babies can't sleep, if all of a sudden these babies can't keep anything down, or they don't have an appetite, or if they are anxious, or you find like if you walk toward a child or you just put your hand on a child and they jump, or whatever the case may be, it's quite unnerving. Anxiety can be mild, moderate, or severe. For example, anxiety may be happening in the back of your mind as you go about your day-to-day activities. A panic attack, on the other hand, mostly involve severe disruptive symptoms. During a panic attack, the body's autonomous flight or fight response takes over. Physical symptoms are more intense than symptoms of anxiety. While anxiety can build gradually, panic attacks usually come on abruptly, which, is just reiterating that. Panic attacks typically trigger worries or fears relating to having another attack. This may have an impact on your behavior, leading you to avoid places or situations where you think you might be at risk of an attack. Like, go ahead.
Beverly Ann says, wow, I deal with both panic and anxiety.
All the crap you've been through, yeah. Sure. Not being funny, but when I tell you you need to hear her story, oh my God, it's amazing. She's still alive. But the causes.
During a period of my life, I dealt with anxiety attacks. Once I realized what they were, I started doing meditation exercises. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And a lot of people, they try to meditate, but they don't really know how to meditate. Just turning the television off doesn't put you in a place of meditation. So,
we need to add that to the lineup
yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, that would be something great to be able to learn.
Okay, we need to wrap up this because we got to talk about our new stuff.
Oh, yes. Okay, unexpected panic attacks have no clear external triggers, but it says you can deal with them. The common triggers are a stressful job, driving, aka road rage, social situations, phobias, reminders or memories of traumatic experiences, chronic illnesses, chronic pain, withdrawal, caffeine. Okay, well, I'm just going to be dealing with it.
Yeah.
I'm just medication and supplements, thyroid problems. And
Demetria Williams Fitz says, no, meditation is deeper and intentional. Exactly. That's why I said we're going to have to actually get into it.
but what I'm going to do is the article that I'm reading right now, I am going to it's actually on healthline.com. I'm actually going to take it and I'm going to copy it and put it in our
We're actually
thread.
going to include links to all the articles that we've referenced on the page itself. I don't know that we can necessarily put them all in on the thread because we do have time constraints. But also because a couple of the ones that I had, are they in your messenger?
I don't know. I think a
I don't
couple
know.
are.
So a
Yeah.
couple of the ones that I had, I think were actually just like bookmarked on my phone. So, but we will make sure that they are included on the show's page. So now we're going into, okay. And that concludes our segment. That concludes our segment on this particular topic as far as dealing with verbal abuse and anxiety. One of the things that we also will do, we will include the suicide prevention hotline. We will include domestic abuse hotlines. We will include lots of numbers and resources and websites for you to be able to reach out to get help if you absolutely, not even if you just absolutely need it, but sometimes like I said, it takes a disinterested third party to say,
Get your ass some
you
help.
got you got a
Look,
situation.
stop. Look, get your ass some help.
You got a
You
situation.
falling off your rocker. Get you some help.
Did they fall off the rocker though?
They're digging a real big hole.
They damn sure are. Damn sure are. Okay. So now announcements. So you heard me reference that this will be our last show in this particular location. We are still with the new family.
Yeah.
We are still with the new family. I believe that we are at some point transitioning to.
Well, once we get the official and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So
officially
we haven't
worked
gotten
out.
we haven't got the official.
Yeah.
But our website's changing. We haven't got the official yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we are also moving our actual physical location. We're moving to another studio. So the background, the next show, the background will definitely be a little bit different. So stay tuned for that. We are having our anniversary is actually January 29th, I believe. 21st to the 29th, I can't remember. But what we are doing is because, a lot of the shows started during that time. So we are actually having an anniversary party, but we are doing it during the month of love. We are having our actual anniversary party will be February 23rd. It will be here in Indianapolis. We are going to have it in a separate venue. It's not going to be at the actual station. Because we are going to be announcing some major partnerships. And in announcing our major partnerships, we want people from these various organizations and these various walks of life to be able to all come together to party, to celebrate with us. Once we have the venue secured, anybody who wants to come to Indy, holla at your girl, either one of us. We will let you know some of the hotels that are near to the venue. And we're going to have an absolutely fabulous time. We're having a themed party. Our party is Let's Go Crazy. But like I said, we are looking to have an absolutely great time. I have some wonderful, wonderful chefs and dessert makers and all of these people in my life. So as a part of what we're going to be doing, we're going to be having a food showcase. So they will be able to come and bring samples of their food, and they will hopefully be there so that you're able to talk to them, to ask questions, to get their information, business cards. So to those who we will be reaching out to as far as being a part of the food showcase. Now, I will say that we're going to limit the number of people who are going to be a part of our food showcase. And it's going to be those who, we are really going to be moving and pushing forward in 2019. This thing called life is going global. So since we are going global, we have to have people who are on our team, that we are going to be willing to present and promote, who are also willing to do really, really big things in 2019. 2019 is a year of change, but it is going to be a year of major, major abundance. It is going to be a year where things skyrocket, they take off, and things move in a completely and totally different direction. And we want you all to be a part of that with us. We want you all to join this journey with us. Part of it you may have noticed is that we have kicked off our YouTube channel. So we are doing a lot of our lives are coming from the YouTube channel.
All of our lives will be
as of next year.
week.
As of next week?
Because this is the last one in this year.
This is the last week. Absolutely.
So we will be doing all of our lives from our YouTube. No,
not from our Facebook.
Strictly from the YouTube channel.
Ooh.
Strictly because Facebook is so inundated.
True.
With lives. I mean,
true.
And from a technical standpoint, it makes life a lot easier, even if we feed it to, that way we can connect to our station page, and all of that kind of stuff. So it'll give us the opportunity to allow you all to see just how awesome New Beat, New Faith, New Groove, and New View really are. So, there's some great things taking place with TerraStar Media. So all I can say is you guys need to just stay tuned. That's all I can say because it's...
One more thing.
Oh, we need to shout out Slab Time's anniversary coming up next week.
Okay, two more things.
Slab Time's anniversary is next week. It's going to be on the 4th. And it's going to be at the Faye Picard
Lick Center on 71st Street. On West 71st Street. Yeah. So Slab Time they are one of our counterparts. I actually was a guest on Slab Time. I was a
to
guest.
Get their tickets. They need to go to
the
newbeatradio.com, or you can go to our Facebook page. And then they also have their website, Slab Time Radio. Is it Slaptime Radio? Yeah, slaptimeradio.com. Yeah, you
Okay,
can.
so 3 announcements.
Yeah, so you can go there to get your tickets because it's going to be a phenomenal event.
It is.
Great
is indeed.
entertainment.
Yes. Okay, so that's announcement number 1. Announcement number 2. This thing called Life has we have a new arm. This thing called Life, we have expanded because we are going to delve deeper into certain topics. So this thing called Life has now started our After Dark.
Wind down.
Wind down.
WYNE.
I love my
down.
wine, but we are winding down.
Yeah, wind down.
Shout out to Mindbender, who is extremely instrumental, I think, in that
With the
part
After Dark part
with the After
especially.
Dark. He created our theme music. We have some really special things coming from him. And again, After Dark is going to be a huge part of that. Also, our website will be going live in 2019.
Yeah.
And so then you'll be able to follow both Wind Down and also this thing called Life. And that's going to be just a huge major production. And my sister. Oh, y'all didn't know? She's a graphic designer. She makes kick-ass websites. She can create logos. She needs.
Anyway,
This is
thank
bad.
you for joining us today on
Virtual
Newbie
assistants.
Radio.
She can help you with that too.
NUUBEATRADIO. Stay tuned because
You need an
we've got
administrative
phenomenal
assistant that don't have
shows
an
and we're
office?
on 24
Alright.
hours a day. So join us anytime. And we thank you for being here for this thing called Life. Have a great one. Bye. Great 2019. Yes.